Hello everyone and welcome to episode 3 of Picture Perfect. I'm one of your co-hosts, Bobby Gross, alongside
your other co-host, Michael Batista.
Also known as
The Animal.
The Animal, Mike Batista. We're here. We're talking Marvel. We're talking Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Just got done seeing that movie. And before we start, just want to plug all of our stuff again. You can find us on Apple. You can find us on Spotify. We're on YouTube, Picture Perfect. Twitter, Pick Perfect Cast. We're also on Facebook, Picture Perfect. All that good stuff. We'll remind you guys at the end of all of where you can find us. But before we start, we also want to give you a heads up. We didn't make it to the Alamo Draft House in Brooklyn this week to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So there's not going to be any vlog for that on our YouTube channel, but hopefully we'll find a movie that's worthy of making the trek over there.
Yeah.
And showing you guys the experience, because I know the draft houses aren't all over the country. It's really in the bigger cities.
Yeah.
So, the flyover states probably have no idea what the hell an Alamo Draft House is. So we want to give you guys a look inside. We've seen a few movies there. We went to see Pee-wee's Big Adventure. We saw the like we mentioned before, the Shyamalan-a-thon. And that would have been a great experience to see this Tarantino movie at, but it didn't work out. We'll give you guys updates on the next time we could head over there and record something for the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And but before we get into that, we are going to get into all of this Phase 4 Marvel Cinematic Universe announcements. Although there's a lot of TV announcements, so I don't know if you would consider that the MCU.
I mean, Netflix is technically the MCU, kind of. It's parallel to the MCU, even though it's not directly. They'll mention, I got a Captain America toy, and it's like,
with all those Daredevil shows and everything
exactly.
like that. Although those are all canceled now. So these shows that they announced, all are going to be included into, I guess, the canon of what we've seen in the MCU. So I guess even though it's on TV, you can still consider it MCU.
So it's like, was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. technically, like... That was CW, wasn't it?
It was ABC. It's still running. And I remember when they first started airing that show, it was like, yeah, this is directly going to tie into the MCU. They did the same thing with the Netflix shows, but there was really like loose connections. The big connection, obviously, for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is that Phil Coulson is in that one. Yep. So it's an actual character from the MCU in that show. But other than that, I mean, they kind of just ditched that along with the Netflix
Well,
ones.
This is now first party, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, because we have a lot of Disney Plus shows going onto the streaming service. We're going to run down briefly everything that they announced at Comic-Con, which, of course, they announced right after we recorded last week's show.
Yep.
So this is all old news, but we want to still give our thoughts on it.
Quickly, though.
First up, we have the Black Widow movie coming out in May 1st of 2020. That'll be next year. That'll be the first movie of Phase 4. Scarlett Johansson obviously returning for that, although it's going to be apparently set in between Civil War and Infinity War, because obviously, spoiler alert, Black Widow is dead. She did not survive the last Avengers movie. And apparently we're going to have a new Black Widow. Scarlett Johansson's character is going to be involved with some other female that apparently in the comics turns into the new Black Widow. It's not confirmed that she's going to be the new Black Widow going forward in the MCU. We also have David Harbour announced for this movie. Any thoughts about this one, Mike? Black Widow prequel, I guess you can say?
People have been clamoring for a Black Widow movie for the longest time, and it's nice they're finally getting it. It's in a weird spot, but I think that if they set it up the right way, it could definitely be very good for the MCUs, because we've had a lot of characters pass the torch, per se, pass the shield, and now we've got her passing the Widow moniker, because at the end of the day, she comes from a school of assassins, so it makes sense that she isn't the only one. She's very good, but it's totally doable and totally understandable that someone else takes up her spot as top agent, and maybe, I don't know if Black Widow is just her thing or a title that could be passed to someone else, That's exactly right, and I'm sure they'll delve into all of that in the movie. The new possible Black Widow is played by Florence Pugh, who was just in Midsommar. She was Paige in that wrestling with my family. Yeah. She was Paige in that movie. She's been coming up
in films right now. This is obviously going to be her biggest role yet.
Yeah.
And, good for her if she can land the Black Widow role and she can get these MCU movies. And, again, it's like, it's going to be tough because we obviously know what happened to Black Widow, so there's not a lot of consequences from this movie because we already know that she obviously survives this one and goes on to the Avengers movies, but it is after Civil War but before Infinity War, so maybe we'll get a tease of like what actually happened when they all went away, they split their ways, Team Iron Man, Team Cap, and that could be interesting. We'll see what happens with that. Coming in the fall of 2020, we don't have an exact date for this, is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series on Disney+. This is obviously going to follow Falcon and Winter Soldier. We don't know... we maybe might know this, but the Falcon obviously was passed the torch, or the shield, I should say, by Captain America in Endgame. And I guess this is just going to be Falcon and Winter Soldier, hanging out,
buddy cop.
Kind of, yeah, and, Falcon trying to get used to being considered Captain America now. I mean, I like Winter Soldier. Falcon is whatever to me, but this should be an interesting show.
Both these guys are also coming off being vaporized for 5 years, so...
Sure.
It's going to be interesting.
And that'll be actually the first Disney Plus show, the first Marvel show. So this is going to be important, because if you don't really hit with this show, that could... be bad for the...
Both of these characters were before MCU C and B tier in my opinion, and after MCU, Winter Soldier's kind of become B+, A-, kind of. Falcon's still kind of C tier in my opinion. He's not really done anything. So these shows are great because they can make me care about. I'm waiting for the moon, like was it Moon Hunter or the one dude like that, I can't remember his name. There's a lot of Z tier superheroes who I hope get this kind of treatment. But this could be a good way for them to be elevated. So it's kind of like grinding before the movie. So now you care about them. Because
I think everybody too assumed that Winter Soldier would be the one picking up the shield instead of Falcon. But I don't think he really deserved it after what he did in his past.
Yeah.
It makes sense to give it a Falcon. We'll see. If they actually address him as Captain America, maybe that'll be like the last shot of the show. It's like he finally dons the costume and everything like that, and maybe he gets his own movie later on, because, are they really going to stop with these Captain America movies? I guess we'll find out.
Moon Knight, that's what I was thinking of.
Moon Knight.
That's very Z tier.
Then, November 6th, 2020, we have The Eternals, which is probably one of the most obscure properties we have now in the MCU. This kind of reminds me of Guardians of the Galaxy, where nobody really knew what the hell they were before the movie. But I trust Kevin Feige. It's a loaded cast. You have Angelina Jolie, you have Kumail Nanjiani, you have Richard Madden coming off of Game of Thrones and Bodyguard. You have so many big-time players, and Millie Bobby Brown has also been rumored for this movie, so I trust them. I'm not familiar with this property at all. What about you, Mike? Do you know anything about it?
I know vaguely some stuff because some of those characters were in Ultimate Alliance.
Okay.
And, the video game. And I kind of know some stuff, but basically I have zero real idea of who they fight, where they're from. It's
like a cosmic kind of movie, I think this is going to be.
Yeah, I think it has stuff to do with, scrolls and stuff, doesn't it?
Maybe.
I have no idea. I have zero idea. Guardians of the Galaxy worked because it did these nobodies and made it entertaining. And made you care. I just hope that Disney doesn't just think, oh, we can do this again, and just go, hey, last one was Walkman, 80s, 90s. Let's make this, let's just throw a dart at the time period and make people think this is quirky.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting, too. It's a very diverse cast as well.
It is.
You're getting a lot of big-time names in this. But like we said, we're not familiar with this. Chloe Zhao is directing this movie, who just did The Rider, a little small independent film that was really critically acclaimed last year. But that's what Marvel really does. They get these small-time directors who get, critically acclaimed independent movies off the ground, and then they put them in these big blockbusters. So we'll see if she can do something with this property. I'm excited for just because who knows what the hell this movie's going to be.
Exactly.
And maybe it can tie into Guardians. It can set up this whole cosmic universe that I know has been rumored for the MCU for a while now.
Yeah, the Guardians of the Galaxy, Captain Marvel, like everybody like piling together.
So that's just 2 movies for 2020, which is strange. It's really only 3 properties of MCU in 2020 next year. But again, we've seen the schedule change. They might push up some shows, maybe push up a movie, push back a show, push back a movie. We'll see what happens. But as of now, only 3 MCU properties coming in 2020. But then we kick off in 2021 with Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Again, another really obscure superhero. I know nothing, again, about this movie, although I'm really high on the director, Daniel Cretton, who made one of my favorite movies of the past decade, which was Short Term 12. So many big-time people have come out of that. You had Brie Larson, Rami Malek, Lakeith Stanfield, a whole bunch of guys or actors came out of that movie, and it's so, so good. Anything interesting you about this movie, Mike?
I have zero idea. I feel like I've heard this in passing, but I have zero idea what this property is.
It's definitely been long rumored for like the past year. It's finally announced. Awkwafina, who I'll be talking about it shortly, also in this movie. You'll have a great, from what I hear, great cast of Asian leads. And also, I think the biggest news, though, out of this movie is they're going to be doing the Mandarin, which, if you remember from Iron Man 3, they did do the Mandarin in that movie, but it was a completely different take that a lot of comic book fans did not like, because basically it became like a comedy character in that film.
Yeah.
But I really love Iron Man 3. I like what they did with the character, but this is supposed to be the real Mandarin, and that's supposed to be like one of the biggest Marvel villains that are in the comic books right now. Again, we'll see what happens.
We'll see.
Definitely intrigued, though.
We'll see. I've got nothing bad to say about it.
Then we have in spring 2021, WandaVision. That's going to be a Disney Plus show. Again, spoilers, Vision is dead. But this is apparently taking place after Endgame. It's going to be really weird because I think Doctor Strange is going to be in this. Oh, actually, Scarlet Witch is going to be in the Doctor Strange movie, which we'll talk about in a little bit. WandaVision, Mike. Anything about this? Scarlet Witch? Does it pique your interest?
Not at all. I mean, like, Vision's entire gimmick was shooting lasers that never hit anything. He didn't do, like, he was a vessel for the plot. He never really contributed.
That's true.
And I just don't care. And then they, like, threw in Scarlet Witch and him, like, having a love story. And I'm like, I didn't care. I honestly think X-Men did, her and her brother better. And I just kind of don't care.
Again, like, I think it's another wait-and-see one. And, I'm sure it'll be good. It's just that, on paper, I don't think the show excites either of us, right? I mean, it's just we'll see. I mean, all of these shows are going to be miniseries, so it's not like going to be multi-season shows. But, if it's 6 to 8 episodes and they have a good story, I trust Kevin Feige in greenlighting the show.
I'm not going to doubt it until I see it, because, like, why would I?
Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness coming May 7th, 2021.
I'm surprised they gave an exact date for this already, but I'm excited for this one just because they took pretty much a C-tier character and made him awesome. Because Doctor Strange is very much he's well known to comic fans, but he's not. He's like Guardians of the Galaxy kind. Maybe not as bad, but like. You know him if you play Marvel, like, fighting games or something like that. You don't know who he is otherwise. And they cast him very well, they made him interesting, and they did him right, and now I'm curious what's going to happen now.
Did you like the first Doctor Strange? Was that...
I liked it.
Okay.
I liked it. I thought that it was interesting, and I did like... But I will say this, they left it on a cliffhanger that we haven't talked about in like 3 years.
Well, maybe that'll be played into this one.
Exactly.
You have the original director coming back, Scott Derrickson. It's been, he actually, I think, at the panel said that this is going to be the first MCU horror movie, which could be interesting. But then Kevin Feige came in and he's like, yeah, but it's still going to be PG-13. So what do you think about a Doctor Strange horror movie at PG-13? We'll see how scary it is. I'm not the biggest fan of Doctor Strange, especially that movie. I thought it was fine. I'm not the biggest Benedict Cumberbatch fan, but if they're doing something really completely different, like a horror movie in the MCU, color me intrigued.
I'll also agree. I mean, we've seen Shazam be a family-friendly movie that scared the shit out of people.
Yeah.
And it's the same, like Spider-Man 2 did that too. It was a family movie. There were some terrifying parts of Spider-Man 2. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's not really that crazy to think that there's going to be a superhero movie that deals with magic and alternate dimensions, with some that can go very terrifying, And
I think that's my problem with Doctor Strange. I don't like the magic element in it because there's really no rules.
It feels MacGuffin-y.
Kind of, yeah. But what intrigues me also is that the Multiverse of Madness, first of all, that's a great subtitle for a movie.
Yeah.
But if this creates a lot of possibilities with the multiverse. The multiverse was teased in Spider-Man Far From Home. We saw Mysterio bring up the idea of a multiverse, and obviously from the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse animated film last year, this is another multiverse kind of reference, although that doesn't directly tie into the MCU.
Yeah.
Could this be a way to introduce, I don't know, maybe an alternate reality Iron Man, or could we introduce the X-Men?
Do you remember in DC when there was that in the Justice League show, there was like that 2-part special where the alternate Justice League that was kind of evil came through the portal?
No, but continue.
So there was this episode of Justice League, the series, where like the main Justice League were called to an alternate dimension because their counterparts thought, hey, you guys aren't doing this right, but you got to be brutal about it. Mm-hmm. And you had like alternate costumes, like Dictator Superman and stuff like that. And I'm kind of that's those early DC animated shows are some of the best things DC's ever made. And now I'm just thinking like multiverses. I'm just thinking there's gonna be if they could pay him in a couple of years, I'm imagining a like evil tyrannical Tony Stark.
That could be interesting.
Sort of like he didn't die, he just ruled the world sort of thing, or like maybe the Avengers are just world rulers.
Right.
And I think that could be very, very interesting.
Definitely, I would say out of all these announcements, this one has me most intrigued about the future of the MCU. Because if he's going into the multiverse, that can open a whole Pandora's box of opportunities to get really weird and do some really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So that's coming May 7th, 2021. We also have the Loki miniseries called Loki. This will take place because, again, I mean, this is Phase 4 of the MCU, so, this is, a lot of the stuff is going to have consequences from Endgame. We saw in Endgame that Loki took the Tesseract and disappeared with it, and I guess this is going to pick up right after that when he disappears from that movie, because this is going to be an alternate timeline kind of thing, too. Thoughts, Mike? The Loki show.
I was never as big on Loki as other people were. I liked him. I'm not crazy about him. I just think he's
not one of your favorite villains.
Not one of my favorite villains. I think that he's one of the better villains, but he's just not one of my favorites. Mm-hmm. I just worry that having all Loki all the time is going to ruin it.
Sure.
I just don't want too much Loki to go to like, now, okay, now you're just like, there's a point where everything Loki says is funny because he's only on screen for so long. But when you have focus just solely on Loki, those one-liners go like, okay, guy, can you stop,
He's balancing out Thor.
Yeah.
Thor is really the one that carries those Thor movies, but Loki is kind of, like the complete opposite of Thor.
Yeah. So
when you have a series directly all about Loki, what do you do? Like, is he just going on 6-8 episodes of hijinks?
I'm thinking there's ways you can go into like, what's Asgardian lore, like stuff like that. Maybe prequel stuff about Asgard beforehand. Maybe maybe talk about the Frost Giants more, like his origins, maybe him discovering the Frost Giant stuff. There's possibilities.
Because in this timeline, too, Asgard is still around. It's still not blown up or anything like that we saw in Ragnarok.
And they're still Asgardians, and not just, like, a dozen or so.
Could we see Thor in this show? It might be possible, right?
I assume young Thor before he's fully, like, manscaped. It might just be
he'll have the back to the long hair and everything. It's the Thor that we see in Avengers.
Yeah.
So that could be interesting. Again, we'll have to wait.
It could
to see.
be him during the time when he threw his dad on Earth, pretending to be Odin. Oh, that'd be funny.
And then we have What If coming summer 2021. Now, this is a comics run that is really well beloved. And this is just kind of like alternate timeline stuff. It'll be consequences from the MCU. So things like what if, I don't know, Captain America was in Hydra or something like that. Something that completely changes what we know happens in the MCU. What if Peter Parker was never Spider-Man? That kind of stuff. It's going to be an animated show. This one could be fun. Just fun. And they have, like, literally almost everybody from the movies coming back to voice their characters, which is good.
Comics do this all the time.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising. It's also just like, when it's a comic, it depends on who's writing it, how the art is, how they treat the character, if it's believable. Same thing's going to apply here, except of, like, who's directing each episode. Do you have a realistic reason for this being like this? It's not just, what if J. Jonah Jameson was Spider-Man? It's like, you got to have a real thing, you know what I mean?
But I think that's what they can do in the show is just play around.
Yeah.
You don't have any consequences for the actual MCU.
Yeah.
They can just have fun with the stories. I'm looking forward to it. It depends, because it is going to be an animated show. It'll be interesting if they gear it more to kids. If they go adult animation.
You have a problem with cartoons?
No, I love cartoons, Mike. I love my cartoons.
Are you the reason why Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is the least profitable Spider-Man movie?
Listen, that movie still made a lot of money, considering it's
disgraceful how low it is. It's like,
it should have made more.
It should have made more.
That's a whole different story, but I think this could be good. This could be fun.
Yeah, but for right now, let's just move on, just because, like, there's nothing to talk about. We don't know what they're focusing on.
Yeah, well, because it's going to be, again, out of all of these shows, this could probably be the one with, like, multi seasons. Like, you can run this for however long you want. It doesn't have to be a miniseries. So this could be like a franchise on the.
Is this the thing with female Thor?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
That'll be our... actually, we'll just get into it now. November 5th, 2021, Thor, Love, and Thunder. We talked about this last week. This is the movie Thor 4. Taika Waititi coming back to direct this. The biggest news, though, coming out of the announcement of this movie is that you're going to see Natalie Portman take over as female Thor. People freaked out about this because apparently this comics run was great. We'll see what happens here. Because this is going to happen before Guardians of the Galaxy 3. We saw from Endgame that Thor went off with the Guardians. So, is the Guardians going to be in this movie? Does Thor actually kind of just pass it off to Natalie Portman? Because we also see he kind of just gives it over to Valkyrie in Endgame.
Yeah.
So this is interesting. I'm definitely all on board, though, for this.
It's so far away, I don't even want to say if I'm interested, because I'm going to forget about this. I mean, like,
this is the one for me I'm most hyped about out of all these announcements.
I'm going to wait until, like, I honestly do not care right now, just because it's too far away, and that's a lot with this stuff. I have no opinion, just because it's cool, but, like, let me see something.
I think people are a little conflicted, though, because we saw that Natalie Portman was very underutilized in the Thor movies, and she kind of wasn't all there. But with this one, I'm sure that she is going to be obviously she's going to be given a lot more to do, so I think she's going to be more motivated to, just be better in this movie.
It's never easy being the damsel in distress. Like, it's never easy.
And the love interest.
And the love interest, especially when your main thing in the second movie is, I've got evil in me. Like,
Sure.
That's your entire thing. I'm like, God, can you just not right now? And then that gets taken care of, and oh boy, you're just the MacGuffin again. It's whatever. I'm curious to see what happens, but I hope that intern shows back up.
That could be fun.
She was honestly the best part of that like trio because she was just one kind of like Loki, just like good one-liners.
And like I said last week, I love Ragnarok. It's one of my favorite MCUs. Taika coming back for this, I'm pretty pumped, and I think that's why Natalie Portman came back for this movie.
Yeah,
because I mean, right now we have Jojo Rabbit coming out in the fall. That's going to be Taika's next movie. It's already getting some buzz. So this is like a on the rise director, and she's going to be given a lot more to do.
Yeah.
But besides like Lady Thor or whatever, I just want to see what happens with Chris Hemsworth's Thor. Like what's going to go on, because when female Thor happens, it's because Thor himself isn't worthy anymore. So what does that mean for that character? Is this going to be the last that we see of Thor? Does Thor just become a guy with the Guardians? There's a lot of possibilities here.
Yeah, we don't know.
And then the last announcement, probably the one that like we're all meh about, Hawkeye show. Fall of 2021.
Who cares?
Mike, can you put into words your excitement for this show? That's not very exciting.
It's not. I don't care about Hawkeye. when Endgame had the moment between him and Black Widow, I was thinking, I don't care. One of you just do it. You're both like so I just like want this to be over, and it's like I remember them teasing, oh, it's gonna be this, it's gonna be him, gonna be her, gonna be him, her. I'm just like, God, just someone jump.
Yeah,
just someone jump.
Probably should have been Hawkeye, right?
I mean, he's a family.
Yeah, but after what he did as Ronin, killing all those people,
I will care more about the show if it was a Ronin show talking about him.
He's apparently there's going to be some Ronin stuff in there. We're also going to see Kate Bishop, who is his daughter, probably take up the mantle of Hawkeye.
We saw some of that in the beginning of Avengers Endgame. So
yeah, I mean, listen, you can only get so excited for a Hawkeye show.
Yeah,
but that's kind of like Phase 4 in a nutshell right now. They're taking a lot of risks with the shows. First off, to directly tie them to the MCU, but also Eternals, Shang-Chi.
Well, you've got to. After the MCU is now done with the stuff people know. You've got to take risks to get them back in. You can't be safe.
Yeah, and this isn't just Phase 4, I don't think, because Kevin Feige also said, yeah, I mean, we couldn't get to. He specifically mentioned Fantastic Four. He specifically mentioned the Mutants. He mentioned Black Panther 2, Captain Marvel 2, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So, again, like, this isn't a set-in-stone schedule. I don't think they could possibly add any of these movies to that timeline of Phase 4. And also, we have Blade. We have Blade coming in. Mahershala Ali came in at the end of that panel, put on the Blade hat.
Yeah.
Blade logo came up. Nobody knew this was coming. We kind of heard rumblings about all of these projects, but Blade was the one that just shocked everybody.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Blade, Mike? Because people...
I know the movie.
First of all, this isn't going to be rated R, the Blade movie. People are upset about that. It's not going to be Wesley Snipes. I mean, I haven't seen any of the Blade movies. I don't know if you have.
I saw the first one.
Was it dated?
It's
or
early
like...
2000. I haven't seen it in a while, but it's early 2000s. It's fine. It's fine and like good in the same way that Spider-Man 2, like Spider-Man movies are like good, but like you can see the flaws in them.
Mm-hmm.
But Spider-Man 1 is just like a good movie. Blade's just an okay movie.
Okay, I mean, I haven't seen them, but I think there's a big difference between two-time Academy Award winner Mahershala Ali and friggin' Wesley Snipes, who, I mean, you couldn't bring him back for this movie.
No, because you have to give it credibility.
And not only that, but first of all, I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but you don't know if he's going to be in jail or not with all this tax stuff that he's still going through. Ooh. And apparently, he was really hard to work with on the third Blade movie. So, would you rather,
I don't
bring
blame.
him back?
I don't.
Bring him
sorry,
back?
what?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, what?
Bring him back?
Okay. Good job, Gross.
Sorry.
I mean,
it's a Freudian slip.
It's a Freudian slip. You need credibility to this. Wesley Snipes isn't the greatest actor. It's not like, It's like you're not going to bring back Tobey Maguire to play Spider-Man.
Yeah.
If Tobey Maguire was doing anything, I have no idea what he's doing anymore.
Maybe he's still gambling. If after we saw him in that unnamed character in Molly's Game, that was
That's true.
based on him.
Yeah.
So yeah, who knows? He might be losing his ass in poker or something like that.
Yeah.
But Phase 4, definitely intrigued. I don't think we can be that excited because a lot of this is just unknown to us. But I'm sure they'll deliver. Very rarely does Marvel and Kevin Feige not bring it.
I honestly just. I don't.
It's a lot of wait and see.
I didn't want to talk about this today because I just don't want to speculate.
Okay, Mike.
But I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way. It's more of
you're a wait and see guy. You want to see trailers.
We're talking about stuff that's 4 years, or not 3 years away at this point.
Next year too.
Next year too, but at the same time, it's we have so much stuff to worry about in the now. When it comes to we have some. I still have to see Spider-Man. Still, I still have not seen that, and it's there's other stuff coming out. There's other Marvel properties coming out too, the games coming out. There's been some other stuff. It's we have time. We don't need to. It's a lot of Marvel. I don't want to see it all and then have it all on my plate and then say, okay, push the plate away.
That's true, and you also have Venom 2 on the way.
Venom,
our favorite movie of last year.
When's that coming out?
I think that might be next year.
Will there be Carnage?
Definitely.
I'm hyped for that.
Okay, that's good.
Man, I am trash.
Woody Harrelson is,
I was
the worst wig ever.
I don't care. It's I don't want to focus too much on the future. Oh, but
unintentional comedy. The original Venom.
It's good.
Mike loves that movie.
It's the best movie of 2018. It's the best movie of 2018. It's not 1. It's number 0. It's better than a top 10.
It doesn't even get ranked. It's just there.
It's just it's just kind of a loser like me.
Oh, Mike, don't beat yourself up like that. You're a winner in my book.
Oh God.
You good, Mike?
I'm just remembering.
You like the restaurant scene where he's in with the lobsters?
I'm just remembering the fucking chase scene where they keep using the same shots in different places.
Yeah, wasn't that great?
And it's just
they put a lot of effort into that movie. Mike.
Oh, my leg is broken, but it's not anymore.
Well, guys, we're going to move on, and I want to briefly talk about a movie that I saw this past week called The Farewell. And, I've mentioned, trying to bring up these smaller movies because these ones you really want to support. And this one, I think you're going to hear a lot about come Oscar season next year. So basically, this movie stars Awkwafina, and it's about a Chinese-American kind of teenager, or maybe even later than that, kind of post-grad college kid. And, her grandmother becomes ill, but the tradition in China is that the person who is diagnosed doesn't know. It's the family that's notified, and they have to find a way to get over to the homeland and spend their last moments with the family member. And, man, I'll tell you what, this shook me. This movie really got to me, and I'm close with my grandmother, so that might be one of the reasons why it hit me so hard. But, man, this is just a terrific movie directed by Lulu Wang, and mostly in subtitles, which I know is a turnoff to a lot of people, but it's just it transcends that. It is just a fantastic piece of film. Again, Awkwafina in this movie, she stars as the Chinese American woman, and I really have to shout out the grandmother, Nene, who I'm gonna butcher this name. Zhao Shuzhen plays Nene, and man, it's very emotional, but also really funny. You will laugh your ass off in this movie. The chemistry between Awkwafina and her grandmother is just out of this world. A lot of great supporting characters in there too. I'd offered you, Mike, to come see this movie. You passed on it, but man, this is really one that you have to check out. It's definitely a smaller movie distributed by A24, who makes great films. Mike, do you have any intent on seeing this?
I'm not really sure, just because the subtitles aren't a turn off for me. I'm a guy who watches anime, so like watching stuff that's like with English titles is fine. I'm totally down for it. But at the same time, just like you asked me the day of, and you wanted to double feature it with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm like, I'm not seeing a movie theater for like 3 hours, or not 3, like for 3 hours at a time or whatever. Just like 5 hours.
This is one of the best parts of this movie. Again, I like these short and sweet movies. 98 minutes. See, it doesn't wear out its welcome. It knows what it is. It gets in, gets out.
I don't think I will see this unless I'm specifically in a position to see it.
Okay.
It's
if it comes up on a streaming service,
I might, because you tell me so much about it. Like I might, but like
this is an A24 film, so it's probably going to go up on Amazon
yeah,
Prime Video.
I might look, but like there's no guarantee. I'm very bad at this stuff, like watching stuff.
I might have to strap you down and
just watch it.
Watch it like Clockwork Orange. Just keep the eyes open and watch this movie. But guys, this is just unbelievable. And I texted Mike. This is, I think it's my new favorite movie of the year.
Dang.
This is incredibly emotional, really, really funny. I think you're going to get some Oscar nominations, like I said, for this movie. Best Picture, definitely not out of the realm of possibility. It depends on how they really push the film come Oscar season. I can't say that she definitely will be, but Awkwafina brings this realness to the character. Very, just probably her best performance yet. I mean, she's been in Ocean's 8. She was in Crazy Rich Asians. This is definitely her cornerstone moment. I would love to see her nominated. I would love to see the grandmother nominated. Please, guys, please support this movie. It's still in limited release right now. You can't find it everywhere, but I'm sure next week you'll starting to see this movie pop up in more theaters. But really, this is probably my favorite A24 film ever. This is honestly, like, I have no problem saying this right now. I think this is a 5 out of 5 movie. I loved this movie. It blends the drama and comedy so well. Please, guys, please check out The Farewell. Hopefully coming to a theater near you. And if not, definitely check out Amazon at the end of the year. It's probably going to pop up on there. But this is one that if you're a person who, when all the Oscar nominations come out and you try to watch every Best Picture movie, I would almost guarantee you that this is going to be on that list of nominations. So yeah, guys, The Farewell, highly recommend this movie. And another one that I watched this week, I've seen this movie twice now because I did do the double feature of The Farewell and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We just saw it today. I saw this for the second time. Mike, this was your first time watching it. 9th film by Quentin Tarantino. He said that he's retiring after 10. We'll see about that. Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, a ton of great actors in this film. Mike, what'd you think about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
I am conflicted a bit, just because it felt like it was good. I don't want to like go into like my list because I feel like I gotta give this some subtext of it's not a bad movie. It's not. I enjoy the characters. I think that they're very real. I think that that's something Tarantino always does very well. But he did the thing again where it's 10 stories at once, or like 5. And he's known for that for Pulp Fiction. He's did that like with Inglourious Bastards. Did
that a little bit in Hateful Eight.
Yeah, but they were all in the same place too, so it's like you know.
And then you get the big reveal at the end. What it kind of gives the what you've seen before, new context.
Yeah, exactly. But this one, it was much harder because like it starts out with Brad Pitt and
we're gonna try not to spoil this movie.
It starts out with Brad Pitt and Leo, and then it's like teasing Margot and her boyfriend,
Roman Polanski. Director of Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, Rosemary's Baby next door to me. That's great. But then you have it's mostly focusing on Leo. Then it just hard cuts to Margot. Then there's just like hippies thrown in between, and then the hippies become a bigger part. I'm like, it feels like it kept cutting away from what I care about to focus on something I didn't, and then I cared about the other thing, and then it did it again. And that's hard for me. I probably need to watch it again to really appreciate it. I will also say that there is some editing. The way this movie is edited bothered me a little bit.
How so?
So, you left the movie to go get a drink because you'd already seen this movie. There's a part where Leonardo DiCaprio is talking to he gets into a new Western movie and he's talking to he's talking to the good guy. I forget who acted with that actor.
Timothy Olyphant.
He's talking to Timothy Olyphant, and Timothy Olyphant walks up to him and goes, "Hey, thank you so much for doing this show. You know, I'm really happy you're here." And there was this weird cut where they're sitting. I don't know what this was. I can't tell if it was supposed to be in the movie or not. Like, they're sitting there, and it, like, hard cuts to Leo looking down. And I'm like, why? What just happened? Did I fall asleep for a second? Because, like, the conversation just jars. And that really stuck with me. And I was watching for it again, see if it's a stylistic choice, but it didn't. And there were other parts where it was kind of jarring, too, but, like, that was just like, what was that? And do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. I think it was more like because he can. It's like it cuts in the conversation, right? It's different cuts.
Yeah.
I think it was just like, yeah, this guy's just talking my ear off. I think it's kind of that kind of thing, but it's very abrupt.
It's very abrupt.
But yeah, like you mentioned, like I mentioned, I've seen this twice, and I can say that. You know, this is a Tarantino movie, right? So you go in with high expectations. He is probably my favorite director of all time. I don't know about you, Mike. But
Second favorite.
Second favorite. So, and he's only made 8 movies before this. It's not like a director like Scorsese, right? He's made tons of movies, a lot of documentaries, a lot of features. He puts out a movie, you know, maybe every 2-3 years. Last movie Quentin did was Hateful Eight. That was about 3-4 years ago. You know, he takes time in between his movies, so, you know, the anticipation always builds to the next one, and he said that he's cutting off at 10. Yeah. He wants the round number, he wants the 10, and then he walks away, right? So, when you're so close to the end, and considering it's a Tarantino movie, you have these high expectations, and the way that the trailer goes as well, and the speculation around because when this movie was announced, there was a lot of speculation about what the plot would be. I would say that there's not that much plot in this movie. It's more like, you know, a slice of life.
It's a period piece.
Yeah, it's a period piece. It's like we follow this actor, we follow his stuntman, we follow this. It's not like this happens and then this happens and then this happens. It's just like most of the movie happens over 2 days. So it's complicated because I had these expectations going in that I would get a lot of Manson. I would get a lot of Sharon Tate. Maybe it would like completely, you know, go in the Inglourious Basterds route where it just completely goes bonkers and changes history forever. We don't really get that in this movie.
We kind of do.
Kind of, but it doesn't go as far as Inglourious Basterds does at all.
I will say it goes farther than Inglourious Basterds does in the like shock brutality.
Sure. We're not going to mention what actually happens, but
yeah.
You know, it's set up to where I was just expecting a kind of a different movie than what we got the first time when I watched it.
I don't know if Bobby could feel it, but I got very tense towards the end when I realized what date it was. I was like, oh no. Oh. And then it takes a different turn. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Because I would say for the first 2 acts of this movie, it's, you know, Tarantino paying tribute to Hollywood of old, you know, the Hollywood that he grew up on, you know. It's very much a love letter, I guess, to old Hollywood. But then in the third act, in the last maybe like 25-30 minutes, it's like, oh man, this is Tarantino to the bone. This is what he does best. And I think for a lot of people, I think this is what might you be feeling, Mike, about this. It takes a really long time to get there to where it's like, okay, this is now the craziness that I expect from a Tarantino movie, because this is like 2 hours and 45 minutes long, and it takes its time, to say the least.
Yes.
Did you have pacing issues with this, or were you pretty much like locked in?
I was, because it kept jumping, I was locked. If it didn't stay on someone. I told you, it got me to, okay, I care about this, and then it would move. It'd be like, dang, but then I would get back in. There was only one sub story that didn't hook me really that well, and it was without spoiling, it's the camp scene.
Okay,
it's the camp part. That part didn't hook me as much as the other parts did, and so when I'm just like watching this, I'm like, okay, cool.
And I think the problem too is, it's Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio's movie. I don't think there's any denying that. And like you said, Mike, there's so many different stories going on. I don't know that it paid off a lot of them. I think you could have cut out a lot from this movie, and it still would have made the same point. Because really, Margot Robbie is not in this a lot. Manson, we thought that this was going to be like a the actor, Leonardo DiCaprio's movie, but it's going to have a lot of what's going on with the Manson family. And you definitely have the family in this movie, but Charlie himself is in and out.
I didn't even know it was him.
Yeah, I mean, they say, like, Charlie.
Yeah, no,
right?
No.
But
no.
it doesn't specifically say, hey, this is, like, the Charlie Manson. And,
does he say his name in the driveway?
I think he does, yeah.
Okay, because I missed, I just, like, who is this guy?
But that's the point, right? Like, if you're just watching that and you don't put two and two together, it's like, okay, this scene is like, what is this? Yeah. It's more time for Margot Robbie and that kind of stuff. But her character, like, you don't need her in this movie because really all she does is like dance and watch herself in the movie theater.
Even the people in the movie were kind of like, why are you here?
Kind of
like her entire thing with like going to see your own movie. It's like, oh. Okay, and like you could have just cut. I don't understand why that was in.
It's very indulgent of Tarantino to have like all of these characters that are there. Just say, hey, here's Margot Robbie, here's Sharon Tate, here's Roman Polanski.
It felt fan fictiony because they kept putting the CG people into classic movies.
Yeah,
although I will say,
well, in the one scene,
no, two.
Which one? What was the second one?
There was Great Escape.
Right,
and then there was the Sharon Tate part in the movie theater.
That wasn't. I thought that was like the real movie. I don't think that was.
Is that the real movie?
I think it was.
Oh,
but definitely Great Escape because you have Steve McQueen in here for like a scene. You have Mama Cass and what's her name? Something Phillips, Michelle Phillips from the Mamas and the Papas in here. Like,
yeah.
It's just a lot of celebrities that you know about that don't really do anything.
Yeah.
And like I said, you can cut out a lot from this movie, and I think that's the biggest problem I had with this movie the first time around, is I was like, wow, this is very, I wouldn't say pretentious, but it's like Tarantino doing whatever the hell he wants in this movie, to where, like, I could easily see, like, 30 minutes of this movie being cut out, and it's the same movie. I didn't dig that the first time around, but then when I watched it today, I was like, this really works for me now. Because I didn't have those expectations going in anymore. I didn't, like, try to predict the movie like I did going into the first time around. I knew what the movie was, and I loved it. I loved it the second time around. So when you say you're conflicted now, I think that you might like it better on a second watch, honestly.
Maybe.
Because the first time I was like, yeah, it's a good movie. Like you were saying, it's a good movie. But then, like, today when I watched it, I was like, wow.
The problem is,
this is a great film.
The problem is, though, it's going to be hard for me to sink 3 hours into a movie I just thought I'm conflicted on. Because, like, it's not a quick watch. It's like, if I was conflicted on Avengers Endgame, I wouldn't watch Avengers Endgame again.
Right.
Because I'm like, I don't want to watch this.
But that's the thing. That's what I mean, I can't say that you're going to have the same experience as me, but I had the same thing where it's like, yeah, that was a really long movie the first time around. That was a really long movie. I felt the runtime.
My legs hurt right now.
Today, I was like, damn, that flew by. Like, I knew what was coming. I was there to enjoy the movie. I still had the same problems. Don't get me wrong. I still have the same problems that I had the first time around. But it's like, I don't know. It was like it clicked for me more. And I dug this movie a lot. I mean, the performances are great. Leonardo DiCaprio, I mean, my God. He is so good in this movie.
Yes.
Another one who should be nominated for an Oscar. He is terrific.
He is better than...
Man.
He's the best part of this movie.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. You know, I mean, we saw him work with Tarantino in Django Unchained. I wouldn't say he's as good as his character in Django, Calvin Candy, who is just probably like one of my favorite characters in film ever.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, talk about an Oscar snub. He should have been nominated, and he should have won for that movie.
Best supporting, yeah.
So good. This movie, I don't see any chance that he's not nominated.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way. It's a Tarantino film. It's about Hollywood, so of course they're going to want to recognize it. Brad Pitt's great. Margot Robbie, for what she does, is good. Another movie with a great supporting cast. Like, everybody in here is good. The little girl is good.
She was funny.
The hippie chick that Brad Pitt gets involved with is really good. I love her from The Leftovers, a show on HBO. Great. She was also just on Fosse Verdon this past year on FX. I think she's another one on the rise too. I think that this is probably one of my favorite Tarantino movies, honestly.
Interesting.
After the second watch. If you asked me the first time around I watched this, I would say, yeah, it's bottom. It's probably better than Death Proof. I may like it better than Jackie Brown, but probably not. This one is probably like top 3, top 4 for me. But that being said, like all of Tarantino movies I love, for the most part. Death Proof is fine. It's a very good movie. I just probably wouldn't watch it again. But he doesn't make bad movies, Tarantino. So saying that, hey, if this was like my second least favorite movie of his, that's still high praise.
It's still a great bar.
If you put any director's name on this movie, this is probably going to be their best work. But it's just that Tarantino he's a legend.
Yeah.
His resume is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And for, even you're saying now, Mike, you're conflicted about this movie.
Yeah.
Being conflicted about this movie is still... any other guy directing this would probably be his best movie, and it would be still well regarded.
I think you saying you were waiting for the Tarantino to kick in for like 2.5 hours. I was like, yeah, I was waiting for the moment. I was like, this feels like a Tarantino movie.
The script is sharp.
The script is sharp. There's the camera placing, like it's the filming techniques, the jokes about the industry. This is all Tarantino. It's missing something. And it just took me to get to the end. It's like, okay, now it's Quentin.
That half hour is bonkers. It is so good. This is what you pay admission for. That last 25-30 minutes is off the charts.
Yes.
And this movie is also really funny. I love DiCaprio in this. I mean, people say, like, why isn't DiCaprio in more? It hasn't been in a comedy yet. If you want him to be funny, this is the movie. He is really funny.
Oh, he's very funny. He's very funny.
I dug this. And, again, I think it could be shorter. There's extended periods where, like, it's a movie within a movie or a show within a show that I don't think is necessary for the most part.
Right.
You could probably like show like maybe like 15 seconds of the movie or whatever, and you'd be fine.
Yeah.
Those extended scenes drag a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think that's just Tarantino wanting to make what he grew up on, which is interesting to me. But I can see why people would say, yeah, that's not necessary.
Right.
You could have just showed a little glimpse and moved on. You have Bruce Lee in this. That whole sequence with Brad Pitt's character. Is it necessary? No. But it's there.
It sets up a Margot Robbie part kind of later.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of this, again, unnecessary, but Quentin Tarantino can do whatever the hell he wants. I'm not telling him that, Tarantino, you needed to cut this amount of time because he's one of the best. He's a legend.
Exactly.
Mount Rushmore for me.
Exactly. I'm not going to tell him. It's not a bad movie. He did what he wanted. That could come off as douchey if you were like, oh, he did what he wanted. But, like, he did what he wanted well. It's just like, it's not bad.
And he can do whatever the hell he wants.
It's like, there's a saying about how if you're a creative, you need someone to rein you in, because like you're never gonna not stop adding stuff towards the end. You're gonna keep pushing. You're gonna push back production. With Tarantino,
this is 100% his vision.
You might be able to make a case saying, "Hey, listen, he might have needed someone to go up to him and say, Quentin, we need you to stop. It's over." And maybe the film would have been better, but maybe the film would have been worse. But what we got with him pushing this film is good, and I don't think there's any regrets for him to add it. He did what he wanted. He doesn't have to live with himself saying, "I didn't put what I didn't what I did." He didn't. I didn't leave out what I wanted in this movie, and so I can appreciate that.
And where would this fall on your rankings of Tarantino movie? Would
right
it be
now,
towards the bottom? Would it be in the middle?
Lower middle.
Lower middle
for right now. Maybe if I see it again and like it more, it might go up, like you said. But like I don't want to assume that, so I'm just gonna say lower middle right now. I would put it. I don't know.
Ahead of Death Proof.
Yes.
Ahead of Jackie Brown.
Yes.
Ahead of Reservoir Dogs.
No.
Ahead of Pulp Fiction.
No.
Kill Bills.
No.
No. Glorious Bastards.
No.
Django.
No.
Hateful Eight.
Yes.
Okay. So that's about middle.
About middle.
I think that's fine.
That's about middle.
And I would probably do the same. I still Pulp Fiction, Django, Hateful Eight. I love those, obviously. Kill Bill I just rewatched. Those are great movies. So I'd probably still put it maybe 5. I think that would be good, because I would combine the 2 Kill Bills. So it would be around 5.
That's fair.
And Mike, we only, according to him, we only have one movie of his left. So is there anything that you can come up with that you would want to see Tarantino do for his last movie? Although I'm skeptical. He can do plays, he can do shows like he's mentioned before, but I don't know if he'll walk away at 10 movies.
What I think he should do is he's done a bunch of stuff, and I honestly think I want to see him genre jump. I want to see him do something we would never expect from him, and that's I went out trying something different. I'm not saying it's got to be a rom-com. I'm not saying it's got to be a slasher horror. Well, actually, Death Proof's kind of like a slasher horror, kind of.
It's a grindhouse.
It's grindhouse.
So, Mike, it seems like that movie that you're describing is kind of the rumored Star Trek that he's been talking about writing, maybe not directing. Would Star Trek be that kind of movie where you would want to see him get behind? Because that would be just unreal.
That's a very interesting point, Bobby. I agree. I think that'd be very interesting if he takes over a property that Django wasn't a property, but
no, it became a property afterwards.
Yeah,
They've done comics,
but he's never I would love to see him take over an existing property and do a spin. That'd be great. I mean, something. But Star Trek, he's got to be careful with that.
But I think that's why it would fit, because these Star Trek movies haven't been able to get off the ground after the last one.
Yeah.
And because it didn't do financially that well. And it seems like, Chris Pine and the next one was supposed to have Chris Hemsworth in there too. They want bigger paychecks. So maybe if you get a guy like Tarantino on board, you can get these guys to maybe settle for a little bit less than what they were asking for before, because you're going to be able to work with Quentin Tarantino.
Who owns Star Trek?
Star Trek is owned by Lionsgate?
Really?
I don't know, Mike. I'm gonna look that up. You keep talking.
It's just because
Paramount.
Paramount.
Okay,
because I'm just thinking I know who owns Star Wars. It's Star Trek to me has always been who owns this?
And I think Paramount needs Star Trek to get going, because really the only franchise that they have is Mission Impossible and the Transformers.
Yeah.
Those are the only franchises they have going right now, so they need Star Trek to really become a success.
Yes, they do.
So if you get Tarantino, that would be crazy. I can't even picture a Tarantino Star Trek movie.
Neither can I, and I'm it's very interesting. It's a very interesting idea.
You'll sell a lot of tickets.
Oh, you would sell a lot of tickets to nerds and neutrals.
Well, guys, that's about it for this episode. Seems like I loved Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The second time around, if you have similar feelings like Mike, if you feel it's a good movie, but maybe it didn't meet your expectations, I think watching it a second time, knowing what's going to happen, I think you'll enjoy it more.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned before, definitely please, if you can, go out, support The Farewell. You're going to be hearing about this movie a lot, I would think. And yeah, so just to plug our stuff, we have Twitter, we have YouTube. I'm forgetting all the plugs, Mike.
Instagram.
We don't have an Instagram, Mike, but that might be coming soon.
I thought you said you posted a blooper on Instagram.
On my Instagram, yes.
And
it wasn't a blooper. It was the clip of the Can You Feel the
a
Love
globe!
Tonight? Yeah. That's on my Instagram, at Bobby is Gross on Instagram and Twitter. For the show, it's Pick Perfect on Twitter, on Facebook, and YouTube, it's Picture Perfect. Mike, where can they find you?
You can find me at MichaelB_96 on Twitter.
And next week is going to be Hobbs and Shaw. And Mike, I know that you're not going to be around for next week's show, right?
No.
So I'm going to have to find a co-host for that one. So Hobbs and Shaw, you're going to miss a hell of a movie, Mike. This should be something.
I'm going to miss Roman Reigns doing the haka.
I think this is going to be like the Meg of this year, where it's just completely ridiculous action, but it's going to be fun.
Yeah, Meg was great. I loved Meg.
So we'll see what happens next week. I'm sure I'll find somebody. But yeah, guys, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we'll talk to you next time.
Goodbye, beautiful people.